TOA community, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Robert Linkle with TrainingTheOlderAdult.com, coming to you live today to talk about feet. I do not have a foot fetish, I promise. I just want to, let me see your feet. Can I just see them? Can I look at them for just a second? I really don't. Here's my thing. I want you to have healthy feet. You know why? Because you kind of walk around on them all day. And we have some people in our family who have not taken care of their feet, and now they're missing some digits in a couple of spots. Got to take care of your feet, people. Got to take care of your feet. So we're going to look at a couple of studies. This one, 2017, is that right? It's somewhere up there. I think it's 2017, and this looked at a whole bunch of older adults 50 and over in Japan. And then they had this one here, looked at the foot and ankle. Anyway, Hallucis rigidus, okay, is basically the injury that we're going to talk about, which is the big toe, your hallucis joint, the big toe, okay, pretend my thumb's not there, the big toe, right? And its ability to stay flexible. Now, the average person's got, I don't know, I think they showed it up there, like 45 to 75 degrees of flexion extension in their big toe, something like that. Don't quote me, it's all in here. The most important part is to kind of show you how certain shoes that you wear definitely feed into this, and then our abilities as we get older, or I should say inabilities as we get older, to continue to plantar flex our foot. That means get up on your toes, lift your heel up off the floor. We need to continue to increase that range of motion and maintain that ability as we get older, or else we become greater fall risks and we become more susceptible to this injury, okay? But this is a big one. So right away, it shows you 40% of the United States population has foot problems, and then 2.5% of those over 50 have this specific foot injury that causes a great deal of pain and creates a lot of instability. I am going to show you some pictures. I'm going to warn you now. I'm going to show you some pictures, and these pictures show the inside of a person's foot, like literally the inside. They've created an incision and they have opened their foot. So if that kind of thing makes you squeamish, I would probably skip out on the next couple of minutes. I'll show you x-rays and stuff first, and then I will definitely warn you before we get into that one. So here's some x-rays showing you grade 0, or kind of what like a normal foot would look like. A grade 1, okay, things are starting to deviate, get a little bit out of position. Grade 2, you see the spacing starting to go away, more calcification around the bone, things are starting to get really rigid, probably pretty painful. And then grade 3, tons of calcification, it's all locked up and rigid. It's really hard to see any spacing, let alone any daylight right in between there. Remember, the more bone deposit you have in there, the more calcification around it, the more rigid it is, the more painful it is, the harder it is to break it up. For some reason, my feet are starting to hurt. Just simply looking at these pictures, this is one of those things, I'm manifesting it in my brain. Think good thoughts. My feet are happy, my feet are happy. Okay, oh, wait, sorry, warning, here it comes. Everybody, God, I'm the worst. All right, you ready? Okay, here it comes. All right, here's the picture. This is the inside of this person's foot, and they are showing you, number one, look at the big toe. Look how it's hooked and curved. That's one of the major tell factors that something really wrong is going on with this joint is your toe is starting to deviate, and it's typically in that direction. Like the head of the toe will start to deviate. This is medial towards your body if this is their left foot, and then laterally, right, distal, it's starting to go away from that midline. So the toe's starting to turn away, but the digit is still pointing forward at that smaller position. You can see all the calcification. Ugh, it's a little grody, but you can see that in there. Okay, some of the techniques they use for this, they put different screws and different bolts. They can go in and shave some things away. They've got some brutal looking devices, gang, that hook onto your big toe and then wrap around your foot. And then they're like screw tights that like, and they like wrench it back into position. A little bit every day kind of a thing to like force all this under pressure to come back. It's gnarly. So I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to take care of your feet. From the basics of just cleaning your feet every day, to trimming your nails to avoid infections, cuts, etc., any kind of funguses in between your toes, all that kind of stuff. And then taking just a basic foot file and filing away dead skin and starting to, in like the early onset of bunions. Basically, you allow bunions can grow in two different ways, from the bone out, which is basically a calcification or bone spur, but it can protrude so much that bone then, or skin starts to build up on it and it actually protrudes out. Or in some cases, it's just an excessive amount of skin being built up over a constant pressure or irritant placed on by a shoe or some type of foot positioning that you constantly put your foot in that requires a greater calcification, or excuse me, a greater deposit of skin. Much like we get calluses on our hands when we resistance train, or if you've ever met a contractor or someone who works with their hands a lot, their hands can be very, very rough. Basically, the demand of their hands to grip hot, cold, rough, scratchy, carry heavy things, they've built a layer of skin that's really rough and ready to do those things. They've built themselves gloves. And we do the same thing in the weight room here. Well, your feet are going to do that same thing based on what shoes you put on, how often you change them, what kind of socks you're putting on in there, how often you are barefoot, how often you are wearing them. Basically, your foot is an independent class lever 2, which means it's like a wheelbarrow, okay? Your foot, your big toe, if you will, and the ball of your foot is the wheel. And then the barrel goes up your foot to your heel, okay? And there's all the weight, right? Your body weight sits in there. And then your Achilles runs down and inserts under your calcaneus, your heel, and runs up your gastrocnemius and your soleus, the two plantar flexing muscles that plantar flex or push your foot down and make you go up to your tiptoes. So think of a person grabbing the handles of a wheelbarrow and tipping it up and bringing it back down. That's us when we go up on our toes and we come back down. This is the only class 2 lever in your body, with exception, I think there's one small example of it somewhere else, but I don't remember. I remember one of my teachers telling me this, that there was one other one in the scapula somewhere. I don't think that's right. I think this is the only one. I think it's the only one. Don't quote me, but I'm leaning towards 80%. This is the only class 2 lever in your body. Most of the other joints are 1s or 3s, obviously, and 3 being the ball and socket joint, etc. Okay, so you're working with this plantar flex position, this high range of motion, all the pressure of your body being placed into a very small ground contact on the floor. And then what are you doing to it? Walking, running, jumping, bounding, shifting, sliding side to side, all of this. And you are now wearing different types of shoes, boots, high heels, sandals, moccasins, slippers, what are they called? Clogs, not Crocs, all these different, I don't know what a clog is, all these different footwears that you were, and then it's cold weather, hot weather, there's sand, there's dry heat, there's constant moisture, there's all kinds of different funguses and different disease. Anyway, there's a lot going into your feet and you got to take care of them. Just from the basics of keeping clean and trimmed and tidy and filed and making your feet look nice. My best rule of thumb is that if whoever you're sleeping next to at night, if you touch them with your feet and they don't like it, you're not taking good care enough of your feet, okay? You gotta take good care of your feet. So with that in mind, as we go into these next couple of pictures, I want you to pay particular attention to what the different shoes are doing to the foot, okay? Here's another couple open positions of the foot. You can see where the bones are starting to shift and deviations. They're gonna put in like different pieces of metal, different components that are gonna start to mold and mend this back together. And now you can start to see when we are flat-footed, okay, and then starting to kind of work up into these higher positions, the amount of pressure in that class 2 wheelbarrow that you're gonna start to apply. Well, every time we raise up on that, you can see where bone spurs and deposits would start to build up under there because of overabuse or pressure from a shoe or a sandal or something else that we're using. And slowly that's gonna start to calcify and get rigid. Hallucis, the big toe, rigidus, non-bearing movement or not allowing for a lot of range of motion. That's your big toe is getting frozen. Basically, it's a frozen shoulder, but of your frozen big toe, if you want to think of it in that fashion. Okay, and we start to see that little break point here every time we plant our flex and go up onto our foot. So this is giving you an example of wearing like a trekking shoe, a running shoe, something that's kind of built for sagittal action going forward. And it allows for the shoe to have a dual break point. So some shoes, right? This is my rucking training boot. This is my weightlifting shoe. You see the rigidity, okay, in this. There isn't a lot. I've got a heavier heel, right? Heavier heel that's really thick and dense and rubber. So that's going to put and hold up against all the weight that I'm going to attempt to lift in the weight room. And then my break at my foot is not super easy. This on running shoes is super easy to break. Okay, but not on a lifting or a cross training shoe. It's designed to give you more support. Now, let me show you my trekking shoe. This is the one that I wear all day, literally pulling this right off of my foot. These are Ultras. And now you can see, look how easy that folds up. This is designed to break like that over and over and over again for me. So when I'm walking, running, hiking, extending, etc., with medium load or just my body weight, it's going to work with my foot mechanics rather than against it. Now, does that mean that I always want to wear these? No, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm just manipulating my body around in the weight room, walking around, not lifting, not doing anything terribly athletic, and or just walking around about my day, this is a great shoe to wear because it's going to support me to the demands of what I need. But if I'm going to go out and go for a run, would this be a great shoe for me? Maybe, maybe not, but probably not so much. This is a great break. That would be one really good thing I would look for, but I would probably want a little bit more heel base for some cushion, a little bit more support up on front so I don't get any toe bang. Eccentric support of the shoe, meaning when you run downhill, the shoe actually helps you decelerate and it's cushioned. Also another reason why you don't want to lift weights in the shoes that you walk and or run in, because that shoe is designed to support a body weight. Let's call it 150 to 250 pounds, okay? And it's kind of designed for all weights, but a consistent weight to be put on there. But if I'm 240 and I can continue to simply lift just 100 pounds while I squat or I deadlift or whatnot, that's now 340 pounds of pressure running through that shoe over and over and over and over and over again. And it was not geared to handle that. Okay, so now the seams, the shoe, everything starts to break down, all the support. But then I go out and I run in it, and I'm like, well, what happened? All the seam support and all the foot and the arch, the transverse arch support that goes along the inside of the shoe that helps support the arch of your foot. If you're flat-footed or if you're high-arched, either one, that transverse arch relies on the support of the shoe with every step that you take to support it and fill up the space to help you with ground contacts. So if all that support is gone because you abuse the shoe in the weight room, when you go out to run, what happens? You're exposed now to high impact foot damages like this, like toe bang, like shin splints, like plantar fasciitis, okay? All kinds of different issues stemming all the way up the body into the back because the impacts that you are placing on your foot have to reverberate and go somewhere. Your knees and calves can only act as a shock absorber so much. Eventually you get tired, the structure starts to break down, and that has to reverberate higher and higher up into your quads, up into your glutes, up into your back, all the way up into your shoulders and your neck even. Okay, so footwear is super, super important. And another reason why I always tell people, hey, when you get a new pair of shoes, people go, I haven't changed my shoes in years. Are you kidding? Take a marker and write on the instep of your shoe, January 2023. And if you get to July 2023, you've been wearing these every day and you haven't bought a new pair of shoes, it's time to get a new pair of shoes. Every 6 months, if not more, if you're wearing them on a regular basis. Let's say it's just a dress shoe. You could have that for 2 decades. You're wearing them 3 or 4 times a year. Anytime you have to get dolled up, that's not a shoe that has to be replaced every 6 months. But if you're wearing these shoes daily, or if you're training in them on a regular basis, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, my lifting shoes I change twice a year. My rucking shoes I change twice a year. I'm putting upwards of 80 to 120 miles a month on my rucking shoes, okay? So after about 600 to 800 miles, those things are pretty damn well worn out. Now I wore my old rucking shoes over the weekend. Any old shoe of mine becomes a yard shoe immediately. Anytime I have to go out, work in the yard, cut grass, chop wood, chase the dog, pick up poop, whatever I'm doing, I'm not wearing my good shoes. I'm wearing my old version of those good shoes that I've now replaced, right? So I put on the oldies and I go out and I'm walking around, cutting the lawn, trimming, doing weed eating, everything else that we're doing for like 3-4 hours. I come back in, my feet hurt because the shoes have broken down to a point where they're not supporting me anymore. And all I was simply doing was walking around the yard, okay? So footwear is super important because you got to think of that position that you're doing thousands and thousands of times a day. Okay, thousands of times a day. If we're shooting for 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day, that's between 4,000 and 5,000 steps per foot. Take your body weight, okay? It's very simple. We're going to do this together, okay? And I will give you a higher example here in just a moment, okay? So let's say easy math, 10,000. 10, 1, 2, 3. 10,000 steps times 240 pounds. That's 2.4 million pounds of pressure that went through my body. I'm going to divide that by 2, so that's 1.2 million pounds per leg, per foot, that went through my day when I took simply 10,000 steps. Now, just for the giggles and the shits, let me go over and look at our Saturday step counts. This was when Keegan and I went to Great America, and Saturday I got in how many steps? I put in 14,954. 14,954 times 240 pounds is 3.57 million steps. You see how this all adds up, okay? And why we're talking about if somebody is 5 or 10 pounds over body fat, where that pressure can start to add up with all those millions of steps that you're taking, okay? Think of all the pounds that are kind of coming into this. It's where it comes down to like, oh, it's just a pair of shoes. It's not a big deal. I get it, they're expensive, but think of what they're saving, what they're reserving for you. Now, let's look at the high heel. Okay, great job on this picture, Rob. Didn't get my cursor out of the way apparently when I grabbed this one. But this is one of the worst shoes that you could possibly wear. Now suggested that a 2 or less inch wedge is the ideal shoe for anybody to wear that wants to get some type of elevation. 2 inches or less, and it should be a wedge, not a high heel like this where you're wobbling tippy side to side, and definitely not 3 to 4 inches or whatever those are. I don't know the names of shoes, stiletto, whatever. I have no idea. Okay, that's not something that classifies in my brain as knowing any of these. There's like Gucci and Prada, and I don't know. I'm just thinking of movies now that I've seen in the past that feature handbags and shoes. Whatever it is, these heels, they got to go. Get yourself some wedges, 2 inches or less. Take care of your feet. The height is the big issue because it starts to break that toe, that joint, that hallucis joint higher than it needs to, and that constant stress that goes into this spot, okay, just causes more and more and more damage. So if you want to check this out and get a little bit more information on your hallucis rigidus, hallucis rigidus, certain I'm nailing that, pop on there, check it out, and get a little read. You can look this one up and see for yourself and just understand the amount of pressure, the amount of damage, the amount of repetitions, the amount of load, amount of multi-direction, all types of things that you're doing daily in your shoes, and why you should change your shoes 2 to maybe 3 times a year and invest in a good quality shoe. It's not a bad idea to go somewhere where people know what they're actually talking about in terms of, do you supinate or pronate? Do you invert or do you invert your foot, internally rotate pigeon foot, or do you externally, more like a duck foot? Are you a heavy heel striker? Are you a heavy toe striker? Do you understride? Do you overstride? Is your tailbone sticking out? Do you stick with your butt, walk with your butt sticking out? Or do you tuck underneath, which is not great for your back? All of these things can be modified. I'm not going to say fixed, but can be modified and adjusted and made more comfortable based on the footwear that you were wearing. Okay, now suggestions. Who do I think is the best out there? I love Altra, okay, A-L-T-R-A, Altra, but with an A. I love Altra, and I love their shoe because it's a wider foot base for me, which I'm comfortable with. It gives me good arch support, and their heels are very thick and heavy. I like that because I go rucking and hiking often, okay? But that's a shoe that I wear out and about on my day. I ruck in Ultras, and I walk around and do my dailies, right? My just regular daily stuff in my Ultras. Now, other shoes out there that are good. Brooks makes a great shoe. Asics makes a great shoe. New Balance makes decent shoes. Nike makes decent shoes. Adidas makes, Puma makes, name it. The majority of the big brands out there have good shoes, okay? But there are also some really bad ones out there. What bad shoes? Let's see. Puma makes some. Nike does too, and Adidas and Brooks. My point is, you got to get the right shoe for you. It doesn't matter the name brand. I can't just say like every Brooks shoe out there is perfect and every other one is terrible. It doesn't work like that. You've got to find a shoe that works for you. So you need to shop around. This is an investment. And once you find one, our clients, Ruth Tesser and Linda Kelly, both of them have mentioned this to me multiple times in the past, where they say, if you find a shoe that you like, buy 3 pairs of them because they're never going to make them like that again. And in most cases, it's not the same color scheme, even if it's the same. Like I remember Nike made a Air Pegasus shoe, and I loved that shoe. Okay. Then they made the second generation, and that was cool, but it wasn't the best color. And then the third generation came, and it was back to black and blue, and I loved it, and they never made it like that again. I had to go to the Ghost after that, and the Ghost was black and blue. It was really cool, and after 2 generations, they changed it. Now it's like neon orange and gray. If you ever find a shoe, you're like, I like the color, and I love the way it feels on my foot, buy a whole bunch of them if you can. If you can afford it, do it. If not, find the brand and the style that you are comfortable with and try your best to stick to that. But it's going to be an investment. Let me tell you this too. Though it may feel like a jerk move to do this, buy your pair of shoes. Go wear them for a day or two. And if they don't feel good, take them back, people. The companies know this. They know that your reoccurring business is better than one-time sale that you're unhappy with. So they will trade out your shoes even if you've worn them for a day or two. Most of them have a 30-day exchange rate, if not 7 to 10 day for a refund, okay? But go get a different shoe. Buy a pair of Asics, take them home, wear them for a day. You don't like them, bring them back. Get some Brooks. Take them, you don't like, these are a little narrow, bring them back. Get a Nike, I don't care. Whatever it is, just try and shop around your shoes. I think Asic makes a fantastic shoe. I think Ultra makes a fantastic shoe. I really like Brooks. Keegan's a big fan of Brooks. I wore Brooks for a long time as well as my regular walk-around shoe. The Go Ruck cross trainers and NOBULL shoes, okay, NOBULL as in no bullshit, NOBULL, their shoes are fantastic to train in. I could not suggest a better lifting cross training shoe than the Go Rucks or the NOBULLs, and I'm pretty sure their designers either went to school together or something because they're almost identical shoes and they're fantastic, okay? So there's my foot and shoe review for you. Avoid this hallucis rigidus injury. This is one that is definitely out there. Though you think like, oh, it's only 2.5% of Americans. That's over 50 people. Almost half of you have foot injuries, okay? The United States, we're talking 40%, if not a little bit more, of the 371, almost 380 million people in this country. Almost 175 million of you have foot injuries, right? If my math is anywhere close to being right. That's a lot of foot injuries, okay? That's a lot of foot injuries. And we got to take care of our feet because why? I started off with this. This is what's carrying you through life. Take care of your feet. Take care of your feet. Take care of your feet. Any comments, questions, hit me up down below. If not, please continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of your feet.